Hello, this is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at FIT. I'm going to be doing some videos here this morning on how to create organic surfaces when you're trying to do a maquette. These are surfaces that could be used for finished modeling, but are primarily meant as a quick way to sketch a form. The first of these is going to make use of just a flat organic surface, starting with a flat surface and modulating it into something organic. To start this off, I need to create an outline of something I might want to use as the shape of a piece of jewelry. I don't really care what it is for the purposes of this tutorial. I will make it something vaguely flame or floral-like. Okay, something like that is fine. Tidy it up. In fact, I'll put an opening in it as well, a negative shape. Negative space. There. Not the most lovely thing in the world, but it will work. Go ahead and join those together. So I want to create a modulated organic surface for my maquette. It's going to have a shape something like this. So first thing I'm going to do is create a surface that I can work with. I'll just drag a rectangular surface. And then I will bring it down to where it fits my shape better. So I'll move it over fairly close to one side and fairly close to the top of the bottom, and then do a non-uniform scale and snap. Pull it over, bring it up. Now, I need to rebuild this surface with enough information that I can modulate it well. I can sculpt with it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit rebuild. On my keyboard, that's an F5. You can actually find it right here under your surface tools as well. I like third degree surfaces for this technique, although normally my favorites are always fourth degree. For reasons, well, I'll put it here as well, because third degree surfaces still have kinks in them, mathematically speaking. They are not truly freeform. Fourth degree surfaces, there's no kinks in them, and so they really are very nice. But third degree is going to give me more control, direct control with the control points, so I'll stick with third degree math. I usually like to have a odd number of points so that I have a row down the middle. 7, 7 is good. I don't want to get too many points because I can always rebuild it and add more points if I want to. And I'll show some of that as I do the video. So, okay, that's my new surface. I want to pick that up and get a little ways off the ground to some credible thickness that I think a piece of jewelry might be. That'll do. I'm going to now project this onto the surface, project curves onto surface, but I need to make sure I record history when I do it. I cannot delete the input, so make sure delete input equals no. Otherwise, history won't track. There. So now I have this, and for all intents and purposes, I mean, this curve I will hang on to, but I can actually turn that layer off. It doesn't matter. So now I can sculpt the surface in any way I might wish. Let's say I want this side of it to be kind of lower down. You can use the gumball for this if you want to. I'm not a big fan, but I know many of you out there are. And you'll notice that as I move the surface, the curve updates to match it. Okay? Not only that, but I can use the curve to trim the surface. And that updating will continue. I will see all of the control points of the full surface, because that, as you should know by now in Rhino, that full surface continues to exist. It doesn't go away because it's trimmed. It simply hides the part of the surface that's been cut off. So I want this to come down even further on that side. And then let's say I want it to swell up. And you'll notice I'm selecting whole rows of points. I will do that as long as I can. There may well come a point in the process where I want to be a little more detailed with what I'm doing. I'll make my changes in one direction and then I'll make them in the other. I would also like this point to drop. But I don't want it to drop all the way up to here, and if I move these points, it will. So I'm going to insert a row of points. Okay? So I can go Edit, Control Points, and you would insert knot. Okay? So I can insert a knot. I don't want it this direction. So I hit T to toggle. Actually, I did want it in that direction, but I did want to show you what toggling does. Now, the closer I put this to another row of points, the more heavily weighted it's going to be with that row of points. But fortunately, Rhino looks like it's going to intersperse it evenly. So we're good. And I might want to have that tip pop up a little. This idea of controlling it in one direction then the other, and then I'll go back and pick up spare parts if I think I need to. You know, do more refined. But I think that's pretty good. So now I'm going to look and see if there's anything else specifically I need. I would actually like to drop this inside corner lower, just so I have an excuse to insert knot again. But now, instead of one direction, I would like it to do both directions. Okay, it's not going to let me with this command. Let me see. if I insert control point, that will allow you to distort the surface more. No? Okay. So I am mistaken. So I will go ahead and do this manually. When I insert point, it'll actually put that row right where I click, unlike the other version where it insert not, where it spread the points back out. This allows me to put them closer together. And this video is going to be too short to go into the specifics of how you do control point editing and how close together points are affects things. But that allowed me to pull it. Now, what I find interesting is this. Oh, okay. That's just because what I find interesting is that for some reason my curve has left my surface. Okay. All right, so we have to go back and take a look at why that is. Okay? When I inserted the points, I changed the surface. When you change the surface, you break history. It didn't give me a warning about that. Okay? So I could insert that knot and it worked. It's the inserting a control point that it won't tolerate. Okay, why? Oh, I know why. Because I'm not allowing the surface to stay, I'm not allowing the surface to retain its mathematic spread of weight. Once I inserted that point, as I was saying, it made the surface weighted right here, which pulled the surface and changed it. And once I did that, it was enough of a shift to break history. So basically, don't do that. Just keep inserting knots. That's normally what I do anyway. I wanted to show the difference between the two. And now you know it'll break history. So. Now, I can get the same effect of getting more precise control by simply adding more and more of those knots. Symmetrical will only work from the center line. So, not symmetrical. But if I keep adding knots on either side, it will get denser and denser. You don't want to make your surface more and more dense unless there's a detail that you are trying to put in. That requires it. There, and now you can see that the curve followed it. If I want to get more detailed with the surface, I can. For a maquette, I don't think that's necessary, but it is useful to see how it's done. So, when I'm going to do surface editing, I always like to go into flat shade on display properties. It's easier to see the impact I'm having on the surface. In the flat shade mode. Kind of want to establish a groove. Okay, but that is too much playing around for a YouTube video. But it's fun to do. It's fun to come in here, and I can keep adding more and more points and getting it more and more detailed. The point is that you can see now, I'll emap this to make it clearer. That I can do a fairly convoluted surface. Okay? Now, to give this surface thickness, it depends on what I want the back of the surface to be. The three choices you have are extrude surface, or extrude from the flat curve and cut off the bottom back flat, or extrude curve normal to surface. And I'll go through each one of those and show the difference. Extrude, I'm going to change the surface to a color that's a little easier for us to look at. Solid, extrude surface straight. You can see that it allows the bottom surface to basically duplicate the top surface and gives you a straight sidewall all the way around. Remember that once you do an extrude surface, the original surface can be deleted. So that's one way. Another thing you can do is take the original curve that's flat on the ground. You can extrude it straight up. And trim it off. And that will give you a surface. I'll cap the back of it. A similar idea and it would be very useful at this point. I should have flowed that on the surface with history to begin with. But it won't make any difference in these two because the sidewalls are straight on the piece. And so when I extrude this straight up, and Boolean it out, it'll be fine. Just want to keep that for a minute. Move it over here. And the Boolean failed because the surface doesn't pass all the way through. So I'll move it down a little bit so it fully intersects. Okay. The last method is the one that gets used the most often. And when I'm working, I'm going to actually project this to that surface now. I should have done that in the beginning. I am recording history, although I don't plan on moving that anymore. The reason I have to have it on there is because the other option, the last option, is extrude, curve, normal to surface. Select your two curve. Oh, you get them one at a time. Okay. Select your curve, select your base surface. And pull it out as deep as you need it. Do the same thing with the outside. And you can see that these side walls actually follow the organic flow of the top surface. To trim it off, you need to offset the top surface. Because if you just make a copy, it will not become smaller and bigger where it needs to really look organic with this. So, offset surface, let's say 3 millimeters. And you'll see that that surface actually fits exactly with the rest. I'm going to make a copy of this so I don't have to lose my history relationship with these two. And I will take the poly surface here. Okay, it doesn't want to trim it, so I'll use the curve. Remember, the Rhino's favorite cutting tool is curve. Pretty much always. And then use the back surface to trim that off. And join these together. Okay, so turn off the curve. So this is these are three different ways to create a block of material for your maquette based on an organic surface. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching.